Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I will show you a very simple way of upgrading basically every indicator you are working with. So as an example I will show you this approach on RSI, but just keep in mind that this is basically universal, so you can apply this feature, or let's call it feature, to any indicator of your choosing, or to almost any indicator. Okay, so here is your classic RSI, which basically shows you the overbought, undersold, overbought levels. Yeah, and it's not a bad indicator, but on its own it doesn't give us much information. So what I will do now is that I will upgrade this RSI indicator by adding the moving average based on the RSI indicator values. Okay, so it's very useful to do something like this, because then it gives you a little bit more context when making decisions based on the average value of that indicator. Okay, so let's do it. I think I will do this as a custom indicator. So I'll go to my indicators, create a new file, custom, I am not in my YouTube directory. So once again, so new file, custom indicator, and let's just call this RSI MA. So RSI moving average. And it will have two positional arguments. So the first argument is RSI period. Okay, so this is like the basic or the initial input the RSI requires. So let's go for the usual value of 14, and then the second input will be moving average period. Okay, so this is basically how many RSI values we will take when, or we will use when calculating the moving average value of those RSI values. So let's go for also 14. Yeah. Next. Oh, and this indicator will be in separate window, because RSI is in separate window. So let's do this. Now we can also fix the max and min. So for RSI it's 1 to 100, or from 1, oh sorry, I'm not sure if it's from 1 or 0, so we can check this here. It's from 0. Okay, so minimum value is 0, maximum value is 100, and there will be two plots basically. So the first plot is just simply for the RSI value, and the second one is for the RSI moving average. Both of them will have type equal to line. Okay, so both of these plots will be lines, and let's do RSI value to be in blue color, so something like light sky blue might be nice, and the RSI moving average will be, let's go for, I don't know, we'll start this color right here. If it doesn't look nice, then I will change that later, and let's click on finish. Also, I hope that this is much more visible than in the previous videos, so sorry for that, but I just thought that that resolution will be okay, but it wasn't. So I guess this should be okay, because it's the maximum size of the font that I can use. Or can I? Oh, I can make it even larger, but I will go for the 18, as it should be okay in the video. Okay, so let's check what do we have here. Okay, so this is our first plot properties, or these are the properties for our first plot, and these are the properties for our second plot. These are our input integers, and these are our arrays, or debuffers. Okay, so these are arrays that will be used for storing the indicator values. And then if we have the set index buffer functions, so position 0, position 1, so this should be okay. What I will do is that I will just change the width of the RSI moving average to 2 and compile it. Okay, so let's start. So, doing something like this is pretty simple. So the first step will be to basically replicate the RSI indicator. Yeah, so in the first step we will just plot out the RSI values, and then in the second step I will add that moving average. So I guess the easiest way to do this is just use the built-in RSI indicator to get the RSI indicator values. Therefore I will create this handle, and on init function I will assign the RSI indicator to this handle. So RSI symbol period current, and moving average period is RSI period, and price, let's go for closed price. This can be changed for sure if you want to. And now it's very simple. I will create my usual for loop. So static integer I is going to be equal to RSI period. Now for I lower than rates total, and I increased by each iteration. We will create a temporary RSI array, and I will use that with this copy buffer function. So indicator handle is handle, buffer number is 0, starting position, so this is very important. In indicators it's not position 0, but it's position rates total minus I. Okay, so this basically gives you the correct shift in time for that specific candlestick you are currently dealing with. And count, we want only one value, so let's go for 1, and array, we will store this into the temporary RSI array. And now, very simple thing, what we will basically do is that we will say RSI value buffer at position I is equal to temporary RSI at position 0, and this is it. Yeah, so by doing this we basically request the RSI value at a certain time, and then we assign that value to our RSI value buffer array. Okay, so it's very simple, but let's check it. So indicator, and let's open YouTube, and it's RSI moving average. So now let's just check if this works correctly, and it looks like it does. But just to make sure, I will, so we are in USD franc, so I will open another chart. Let's do this, and now, okay, so sorry, I was in experts folder. So indicators, YouTube, and now let's find the RSI moving average. So as you can see, it looks the same. Yeah, I think that it may be a good idea to also add these lines. So let's do that now. I hope that I still remember how to do that. So property indicator level 1 is equal to 70, and property indicator level 2 is equal to 30, and now also property indicator level style 1 is equal to line or style dot. I hope this is the correct syntax. Or is this universal? Is this style for both of these? Yeah, I guess that we can just like set one style for both of these lines. So let's do this down here. and now yeah, it looks the same. Okay, perfect. So so far so good. So first step is done. So now the second step. Let me just check my webcam. Am I in the center? Yeah, I think it's okay. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. Is this better? This should be okay. So let's continue. So now calculating the moving average value. So there are basically multiple ways to do this. We can either calculate this manually. Do you know what? Let's change this to 0. So let's just start at index 0. So this should be okay as well. Okay. And now there are two ways to do this, or there are probably multiple ways, but now I can think of two ways. So the first way is that we will, on this copy buffer function, we will request or let's think about this. So what we are doing here is that we basically request RSI. Yeah, it's so yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to check the validity of my process. So what we can do here is that we will change the count, basically the number of requested RSI values to moving average period. Okay, so now this basically stores, in this case, 14 RSI values of period 14. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And now what I can do is that I can basically say that RSI value buffer is equal to temporary RSI for moving average period in -1. So this should work the same. Yeah, as you can see, it gives us the same plot because it's yeah, it's an okay approach, let's say. And now what I can do is that I can use all of these 14 RSI values in this temporary RSI value to calculate the moving average. Yeah, so I guess this is the most simple thing to do. Now, how to calculate the moving average of this temporary RSI array? So there are two ways. I will show you both of them. Yeah, so you can include math /stat/ normal.mqh library, which basically allows you to use some statistical functions. Yeah. So now what we can do is that we can say RSI and a buffer at position I is equal to math mean. So basically this is a function which requires one positional argument, and this argument is a double array, which is the same type of temporary RSI array. Okay, so we will input the temporary RSI array in here, and basically this math mean function returns the average value of all of the values inside this array. So basically it gives us our average value. And now I will store this average value into this RSI moving average buffer. So I click on compile, and as you can see, it plots the moving average. So perfect. So now we can basically compare the current RSI with our moving average. So basically what we can do is that we can only iterate on the crossover. Okay, so for example, if we want to like, there are so many ways of how we can use this. This is just one of them, but we can use it as an entry signal, or we can use it as a filter. So for example, RSI being above moving average or below moving average. Yeah, so there are just so many ways to do this, or not to do this, but so many ways to use this. Okay, so now if we go here and I just change the moving average period to something like 200, now you can see that, yeah, the line basically is pretty still. Just keep in mind that both of these parameters have basically influence the moving average. So if I change the RSI period to something like 4, you can see that now there's much more noise, okay, and that moving average period line changes as well. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. We can do one more thing. So for example, it's a very famous concept for moving averages on the main chart. So it's a moving average crossover. So I'm sure that you have heard of this. So for example, if I plot one moving average on my main chart, then I plot another moving average on my main chart, then what I can do is that I can open buy positions when there is a crossover like this, and I can open sell positions on crossover like this. Okay, so it's a very famous concept. And we can do the same thing for the RSI moving averages as well, and it's not difficult, to be honest. So let's do that. So for adding one more moving average, we have to increase the number of buffers in the EA by 1. Sorry, not EA, indicator by 1, and indicator plots by 1 as well. So now there are 3 buffers and 3 plots. Now I have to add these properties for the third plot. Okay, so now I will just replace this value of number 2 by number 3, and I will change this to something like second moving average. And draw a line. Let's change the color to yellow. I don't know. Let's go with yellow. And that's that. Now I of course have to create that new buffer array. So RSI second MA. Now I also have to set index for that buffer. So 2, and let's just replace this array in here. And now is the same thing. So just to keep these things very simple and very clean, I will create second array. So let's call it second RSI array. Okay, because I have to request another RSI values, and this will be equal to, let's create also one more input variable called second MA period, which will be equal to 50 by default. So now I have to request these 50 values, which I will do right here, and I will store this into second RSI array. And now I have to do RSI second moving average is equal to math mean second RSI array. So click on compile, and voila, you have 2 moving averages on your screen. So as you can see, it's extremely simple to do something like this. Yeah. So now you can do something like sell on crossover here, buy on crossover here, sell here, buy here. Okay, so it's very simple, and I am sure that you understand basically all of it because it's very simple. And the good thing about this is that, as I have mentioned at the start of this video, this approach is universal. So when you are dealing with any oscillator, okay, so it doesn't have to be only RSI, it can be any oscillator you want. So for example, I don't know, let's go stochastic. Yeah, stochastic is a nice stochastic is also very popular indicator. So also for stochastic, this works exactly the same. So the only difference would be that you have to decide if you want to work with the signal line or this main line, yeah, but otherwise the approach is exactly the same as with the RSI. And the same goes, for example, for this one, yeah. So it's the same approach. And yeah, so I think you understand what I'm trying to say here. Let me just check how long this video is. 20 minutes. I will show you one more thing. Yeah, I will show you one more thing which can be incredibly useful. Yeah, maybe even more than moving average, and that is the standard deviation. Yeah, so how to add a standard deviation to plot like this. Let me first explain the standard deviation on the best example I can give you. So I am sure that all of you are familiar with the Bollinger Bands indicator. And Bollinger Bands indicator basically uses moving average of period that is specified in here and standard deviation with multiplier of this deviation value. Okay, so when you plot it like this, it basically shows you this. Sorry, I don't know why. Yeah, when you use Bollinger Bands, it basically shows you this line in the middle, which is the moving average, and these bands. Okay, and these bands basically show you or they highlight the area within which the price should stay. Okay, so how to read something like this? So if the price goes either below or above these bands, it tells you that this price action is unusual because it should have stayed inside these bands. Therefore, something is happening, and it's not a normal behavior, let's say. Yeah, and we can basically replicate these Bollinger Bands for our RSI indicator as well, and it's very, very easy. And I will show you how to do this right now. So let's go back and let's just delete the second moving average because we don't need it anymore. That was just an example of how to do something like this, but we don't need this. So let's just delete all of these things. And let's start over for the Bollinger Bands of RSI. Okay, so for Bollinger Bands, we will need 2 more buffers, so 4 in total, and 2 more plots, so also 4 in total. And we will need to specify properties for those 2 additional plots. So let's just change numbers here, so 3, and here it will be 4. And let's call it upper line and lower line. Okay, and I just delete this comments right here. Let's do width of 1, and I think we can use color something visible. Yeah, I think we can stick with the yellow color we used for that second moving average. Perfect. So now we need one argument, and it's going to be the same argument as is required for the Bollinger Bands. Okay, so it's this deviations. So it's basically multiplication value for that standard deviation. Yeah, very simple. So let's call it deviations. Let's keep the name the same. So now let's specify 2 more arrays. So RSI upper and double RSI lower. So now let's set an indexes for these additional buffers. So 2 and 3, and this will be RSI upper and RSI lower. And now also, if you import this library, it makes your life much easier because calculating standard deviation without any functions. Yeah, it's not difficult. But it takes more time, and you can make some mistakes during the process. So it's easier like to use the built-in function that we can thanks to this library. So let's calculate the standard deviation. So stdv is equal to math standard deviation for the temporary RSI. No, sorry. Oh, okay. So this won't be okay because we don't want to calculate the standard deviation for the RSI periods, or do we? Okay, so let's continue with this, but I think it will be wrong because we don't want to calculate the standard deviation for the RSI values. We want to calculate the standard deviation for those average values, if that makes sense. But let's try this out. Let's just plot it out to see how it looks like, and then if it's not alright, I will change it. So now the RSI upper will be equal to RSI MA buffer position I plus STDV times deviations. So very simple. And now RSI lower, just change the sign here. Okay, so it gives us this, which is all right, I guess. I thought that there will be much more noise, but I guess this is the right approach. I just wasn't sure, but yeah, this looks like the Bollinger bands we see up there. So this is basically the Bollinger bands for the RSI. I hope it's visible. I'll just change this to 2 and let's go for color white. I think the yellow is too bright for me, so let's just change this to color white. And let's just deploy the indicator one more time. So yeah, now it's much better. Yeah, so this is it. This is how it looks like. I think I've already explained how to read this indicator, but basically if the RSI values, which are represented by this blue line, are outside these this area, which is highlighted by these white lines, then there's something unusual happening. Yeah, it can be either due to the high volatility, yeah, but strong trend or something like this, but it's unusual. So in moments like these, you have to be very aware of what's happening and take an action. Yeah. Okay, so I guess this was a very simple, easy tutorial, but it's incredibly powerful to use this. Okay, so if you want to close this video now, you can. It's 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes. But just to prove my point with this code being universal for any oscillator out there, I will prove this now. So I will open a new, or I will create a new file. Let's call it, how to call this? Test of just test. Let's call it test. Yeah. And I will just take this code and I will just paste it here. Paste it here. So now these two codes are exactly the same. And now the only thing I will change is the source indicator. Okay, so now I was using RSI, But now I will find a new oscillator and I will use it on that. So for example, force index. Let's do this for force index. Okay. So what I have to do is that I have to go here. I have to change the indicator, of course, and otherwise the rest is the same. So I force symbol period current. I won't change the names of those inputs. Obviously, I don't want to call this RSI period since this is for force index, but it really doesn't matter now. Now I'm not sure if I should use volume real or volume tick. Let's go for a real, but I think that for one option it works nicely and for the second one it does not. Okay, so tick. It was the second option, so volume tick. Perfect. So perfect. So now let's go here and let's add this test. Yeah, and there's one thing I screwed. We can't use levels and we don't want to fix maximum and minimum because force index moves on different scale. So let's just delete, and let's just deploy this once again. Sorry, I just, oh my god, I'm just so unskillful with the MT5. So now there's this test. Perfect. So this is the force index. Let's just check it. So indicators, oscillator, force index, and the only difference is that we are using this for period of 14 and in the settings it should be 13. So now it's the same, or is it not? It's not. I think it's still because maybe because of the ticks that we get, I'm not sure, but you can see that basically just by replacing the indicator you can see that these bands and this moving average is created the same way. Okay, so this is going to be it for this video. I hope this was helpful and thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.